I did a session on this a couple days ago where we talked about unconscious bias training, and we actually, I think it's really come into the national conversation with force in the last year. But we actually built the training 4 years ago. We put it online for those of you that are looking for a starter for bias training. Just go to managingbias.fb.com. All of the training that we developed is there. But it was an interesting program to build because we weren't trying to solve a problem. We weren't trying to cure bias. You can't get rid of it. For those of you that came to the session, we discovered a really foolproof test for bias. Just do that, and if you have a pulse, you have them. So that wasn't the conversation. The conversation was, can we create an environment where people can actually talk about it, which is an incredibly difficult goal that I think we accomplished.
I know we met at your New York office and we were talking one day, and I was so impressed when you said that Cheryl and in many cases Mark were sitting in your unconscious bias workshops and fully participating. What drove them to do that?
Cheryl actually designed it. So we had a version of the program that we had built in the learning and development team that she graciously just trusted that we had built the right version. She came about 8 months after we launched it and was very participative in the class, and afterwards told us this is not good. It's not what we had in mind. So she actually wrote out an outline in a Word doc and called me into her office, and we built version 2. And Mark and his team were the first ones to go through it. They were willing to not just go through the training and endorse it. We weren't really looking for sponsorship. We were looking for role modeling. So Mark and all of our other leaders, we really asked them, don't just tell people to go to the training, talk about what you learned from it and role model. The difficulty of having a conversation about something that most people, when I teach the class, and I did it here on Monday, to raise their hands if they had ever had a conversation with a colleague or a coworker or a boss about race or gender bias at work, and almost no hands go up. So this is really a new frontier for a lot of people.
And I have an interesting hope, fantasy, aspiration that we also build out in our culture a universal signal for uncomfortable or strange or like if you went like that, you know, because very often you're in a situation and somebody doesn't realize that bias is kicking in.
Right.
But how do we have a way of kind of signaling that?
I'm a fan of side-eye. But yeah, I think just one of the things that we talked about in this session was just asking a question. One of the reasons why these conversations get really heated and confrontational is that we make them that way by the way that we call it out. So just saying like, hey, can we talk for a second about what just happened there? Or I tell people all the time, blame training, right? Point back to something that we covered in the class where you can say, hey, we talked about this particular thing, describing women's behavior as aggressive where we wouldn't describe men's behavior that way. I think that just happened. Can we talk about why?